our story. Through enterprise and presence, we promise. We mean business, we showcase. We mean business.
Entrepreneurs Channel TV, creating a platform of expression for every woman.
My name is Ibukunoluwa Otesile, Mrs. I'm the founder, Hope for Second Chance Foundation. Hope for Second Chance Foundation is an NGO that tackles child sexual abuse and juvenile delinquency. We're committed to raising the awareness on the factors that predispose our children to becoming sexually abused. Well, I came about the name Hope for Second Chance Foundation because in my journey through life, I've been able to realize that everybody deserves a second chance. It really does not. In fact, the fact that we sleep and wake up tomorrow is evidence that we already have a second chance. It's said that tomorrow is a second chance that life gives us. So, irrespective of whatever evil that you might have done, whatever wrongdoing you might have committed in the past, you can still, improve on your life, make corrections, amend. That means there is a second chance for you. It doesn't matter what evil has been done to you, you can still go on to live a good life. And that's where Hope for Second Chance comes from. Everybody deserves to have a second chance, irrespective of what a wrong you have committed or what wrong might have been done against you. We'll all deserve to have a second chance. And hope for our second chance is what HOSEC Foundation preaches. Well, for us, I got to this point, I've always worked with teenagers. I've always worked with teenagers. Even as a teenager myself, somehow I've always had young people gravitate towards me, share experiences that they're not even able to share with their parents, and I've always found myself in the position of counseling and giving support and moral advice and all of that. But I decided to leave everything else to face this when I realized the enormity of the devastation that our children are going through. At that point, it was almost as if I was drawn into it. I kept meeting children that had been started from children that had been delinquent, and in trying to rehabilitate them and trying to talk to them and help them find their foot back, find their path, I realized that a number of them had actually been sexually abused. And so I discovered that, okay, so there is a connect between delinquency and sexual abuse. That's the first discovery. And then I realized that with this many many children being exposed or being sexually abused, not much is being done. And when I started engaging parents, on their thoughts, on their perception, on some habits that I saw or that I discovered predispose those children to becoming sexually abused, I realized that a lot of parents are negligent. I realized there was a gap, there was a disconnect. Most of our parents are not aware. Those that are aware are not conscious enough. They're not conscious enough to realize that sometimes what we do as parents predispose our children to becoming sexually abused. And that's why I decided that, no, I'm going to fill this gap. I'm going to, take this fight. Like, take this fight and take it there. Like, we work with the children when they have been abused, or we used to work with the children when they have been abused. I discovered that we do not have that system here that can actually handle the whole rehabilitation process, psychosocial support, getting that help that they need come to them rapidly enough. And so I just said to myself, why wait until that abuse happens before we begin to look at how we can rehabilitate them and help them live normal lives? Why not prevent the abuse from happening? In medicine you have the preventive medicine, you have the curative medicine. So what we do majorly in HOSEC Foundation is more like the preventive. We are so strong on prevention advocacy of child sexual abuse. We go to schools to teach children bodily safety education, how they can protect themselves. We have initiatives that build confidence in our children, because sometimes predators discover or profile their victims, and one of the things that they look out for is children that have low self-esteem. So we have initiatives that actually build the self-esteem of children to prevent them from becoming prey of sexual abuse. So we have those initiatives. Again, we go to schools to sensitize parents. In fact, anywhere that we find parents, we go to marketplaces, we go to schools, wherever we can find parents, because it's a synergy of both. We educate the children, and then we sensitize the parents and then the general public on the factors that predispose our children to becoming sexually abused. So as I continued with my work with them, I just discovered that, and then of course getting married myself and becoming a parent, becoming a mother of two, I realized that a lot of parents were negligent, a lot of parents were unaware, a lot of parents were not informed, and that's why the prevalence of child sexual abuse has continued. And that's when I decided that no, I am not going to be quiet, because really I became very scared. We can as parents assume that, okay, once my child, I take care of my child, you dare not come near my child anyway. I can take care of my child, and we assume that it's the business of the other parent to take care of his or her child. Yes, it is their business, but the truth about it is, man is not made in isolation. And it's such that, we can't explain, but it is such that the actions of one man is very likely to affect thousands of other men. And that's why we cannot just keep quiet, we cannot just sit down. If I continue to say, oh, I take care of my child, and I'm not concerned, my child will go to school. Life is a leveler. If you are the rich, you are the middle class, you are the poor, whatever class you find yourself, life has a way of bringing everybody together, either in school, at workplace, somehow life brings us all together. And so if I am not concerned about that other child, and that child gets damaged or becomes damaged, that child is going to someday meet with my child, and that child, or that child that has become a man or a woman, is likely to cause harm for my child. And so if we look at life from that angle, we realize that as parents we need to come together and really be serious about the protection of our children. And so that's what pushed me into HOSEC Foundation. And HOSEC really just started with speaking to mothers, and then now we go to schools. Like I said earlier, we go to schools to teach children what we call body safety education. That a lot of times it comes back to the culture of silence. A lot of times I hear that as parents, and it's okay, most of the times we want to protect the innocence of our children for as long as we can. A lot of times we like as parents assume that our children do not know things. But the reality of the life that we live now, the reality of the world that we are in, is that in most of the cases our children know much more than we can imagine that they know, much more than we are comfortable to let them know, and that reality puts a responsibility on us. There's a lot of information out that our children can have access to. I was speaking with a parent from a school just yesterday, and we were talking about his child wanting to become a robotic engineer and all of that, and I encouraged him to give him access, but I also had to put a caution that, while internet was up in our time, you had to go to the wrong site, you have to go to the pornographic site, but now you just have pop-ups. So even if your child does not have the intention of viewing sexual images, there are pop-ups everywhere, and that makes us realize that we just need to have the conversation with our children. A lot of parents are very, very uncomfortable with having sex education or teaching sex education to their children. And I say that it is a talk, a conversation that every parent must have with your child. And now you need to have that conversation early enough. The beauty of it is we have what we call age-appropriate education. And so, you can always find how to talk to your child, whatever the age bracket your child falls in. And so, if the word sex education is what actually offends your sensitivity, I call it body safety education. That's if your child is, less than 10. Even a child that is 10, some parents would just not want to, mention or say the word sex. You can teach your child body safety education, and that includes that they know their body parts, they know what the body part is called. There is nothing that, pardon me, that is kokoro. There is nothing like tontolis. No, please let us teach our children the body parts and their name. It's a penis. They should know it. Because the truth about it is, if you don't teach your child, the other child from another school, from another background knows about it, and will talk to your child about it. And so it becomes, there must be something very interesting. Knowing that children really are very inquisitive. Something interesting about this that my mother has not told me about. But if it's a word that your child has heard, that your child knows that, okay, it's my body, and it's private to me because it's my body, and if it's private, it has to be covered, nobody has access to it. Your child has knowledge of that conversation. So if somebody in the school is starting that conversation, it's not interesting, it's not new. Children are attracted to new things, new words, new talk, and that's why, a child that probably 18 months picks a word or hears a word, and the next thing is for the next how many days she say everything that she can say is that word that she's saying. Let me cite an example. I have a girl that is 2 years. My husband actually had to do a video of her, and she was trying to spell words, and she would spell baby as B-A-B-Y, baby. So she says that my husband gives her a word and says spell dog, and she says B-A-B-Y, dog. Then he gives her spell mommy, B-A-B-Y, mommy. And so for her, in her head, every word is spelled B-A. I really wish this life can be that easy that, just one solution can solve all problems. But unfortunately, that's not the world that we have now. So what am I trying to say? Now, if we remove the novelty in some of this words, some of this talks that we should have with our children, then we're better positioned to protect them. I always say it everywhere that I go.
Entrepreneurs Channel TV, Africa's first gender-based television service. Yes, on Entrepreneurs Channel TV, our primary responsibility is promoting women entrepreneurs in West African countries. We also support women's well-being, share women's knowledge on a variety of subjects and topics, passions and opinions. Entrepreneurs Channel TV is on Intelsat 20. Our satellite coverage is within Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, North and South America. Opportunities abound for women-owned micro to small businesses, corporate bodies and organizations, and also government parastatals. For inquiries and advert placements, contact 0705-5053-843. Entrepreneurs Channel TV, rewriting Africa's story through enterprise Amazons.
Now, as a parent, the best you can teach your child is going to be theory. You're not going to do practical. Now, the pedophile, the aggressor, the person else that is likely to abuse your child is going to do practicals. And practicals usually are more interesting than the theory. So before somebody begins to do practicals with your child, you need to do the theory part of it. The longer short of it all is that we protect our children. How do we protect our children from becoming sexually abused? I will start with, there are myths that we've brought around that surround child sexual abuse. A lot of times as parents, we assume that our children will just tell us. I want to tell you that, yes, children are not able to keep secrets. Children talk. But I also want to tell you that children are fantastic at keeping secrets. So your child could have been abused, and years you wouldn't know about it. So don't assume that as a parent, once my child has been sexually abused, my child will come and cross to me and tell me, or if somebody is crossing the boundaries, my child will, no, please do not assume. And that's why, we go back to when I said as a parent, you have to be a cop, you have to be a detective, you have to hone your detective skills. So when you begin to see the signs, no, at this point, this is not acceptable for me. So you need to not assume that your child is going to just tell you. Again, a lot of times we assume that pedophiles are evil, mean-looking persons with horns on their heads. When I talk to children, I tell them that when we're growing up, the image of the devil that he gave us was a creature with a horn, at the center of the head, or two horns, depending on the species of the devil, and with a tail, is black, he has wings, is mean-looking, and that's the image of the devil, bad people that we give our children. But the truth about it is 98% of the cases of abuse are by known people. Now, I've had cases of fathers that have abused their children, of uncles that have abused their nephews, and in most of those cases, they are family members. So do not assume that it's a stranger that's going to come and abuse your child. Again, what we go wrong, we teach our children how to deal with strangers. We don't teach them how to deal with family members that cause them even the most harm. So, don't assume that the pedophile or the person that's the aggressor is going to be scruffy looking, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be, mean looking. No, it could be the brother or the sister that you're actually leaving your child with. And I said sister here because yes, our boys, in fact, let me say it at this point that we have as many boys that have been abused as we have of girls. It's just that there's not much noise about it. It's also the part of culture of silence where we expect our children to our boys, there's so much pressure on our boys, we expect them to be strong. We forget that they themselves are children. It's the man that is supposed to be strong. The child is supposed to be allowed to be, to be a child. So yes, boys have been sexually abused. In fact, the first case I had to deal with was a boy. And most of the times we just assume that it's a girl child that needs to be protected. And I would say, let's just think about it. If now we have this many cases of girls abused, does it by men? Does it not tell us that something must have gone wrong with those men when they were boys? And so it's the child. I say that what you qualify a child for affection should not be the gender, it's a child. We call it child sexual abuse. We don't say girl sexual abuse. So the child, the boy, and the girl. So it could be your sister that you're living with your child with, or the mate that could actually abuse your child. So don't assume that, it's somebody very mean looking that can abuse your child. Again, a lot of times we assume that it's for a particular class. No, abuse cuts across every strata, every class, every social class. It happens with the very rich, it happens, the middle class. Do we even have middle class anymore? Anyway, but the middle class, the poor, so it's important, once there is a child, and that child is a child, then that child is at risk. And so, we need to take all of that out of our head to be able to protect our children. Now, the first thing, and I think which is the most important thing, is identify what I call grooming signs. It's so terrible that we're not able to really tell when abuse is about to happen. That's unfortunate. You can't tell. What saves our children is actually our gut feeling. It's just, a few things. And the time in between that we have to protect our children is usually very small. Very, that most times we're not even able to identify the signs. And that's what I'm saying. There are pointers. That's what we call grooming. Now, grooming is the process a pedophile identifies your child or identifies a child. And first stage is gains acceptance and access to the child, gains your trust, gains the love of the child, gains the affection of the child, so he has access. When he comes in and says, oh, let's take a walk, you won't think twice about it. Why? Because he's somebody that has been good to your child, that has been very dependable for your child. So that's the first stage. And the second stage is, of course, the stage where the abuse happens, and the third stage is where the abuse is concealed. So how do you tell the grooming signs? How do you know if somebody is grooming your child? Well, it doesn't happen in all cases, but these are pointers that you might need to be cognizant or take cognizance of. The first I would like to say is if there is anyone that is overly critical of your child, you need to begin to ask yourself questions. And you know, children normally like to be accepted. Children love to be loved. And so when there's somebody that is critical of your child will want to do everything to please that person. So you know, it's reverse psychology. And in the process of wanting to please that person, all kind of things begin to happen. So if there's a person you discover, a particular child, you know, it's always over. In fact, sometimes you have to ask yourself, did my child do something else? Or is it still the same matter that we're going over and over with? That might be a sign that your child is being grown. Again, if you have somebody that is too nice, too affectionate with your child, would rather spend time with your child, would forgo opportunities to stay with your child. You need to begin to ask questions like, why are you buying gifts for my child? It's important for, yes, we be polite, subtle, but you need to ask those questions so that if that person has intentions, he would know that, okay, this is a mother, this is a mom cop. I call myself a mom cop anyway, so oh, this is a mom cop. No, this is a no zone. It's an FBI or a CIA zone, and you know, I'm not going there. Again, you need to find that if there's somebody that would rather be with children, it's always very convenient for him to put his activities aside to stay with your child. You might want to begin to ask questions like, why are you always around my child? Now, if there's somebody your child is scared of, and if there's somebody your child would rather be with than you, those are signs again that you need to check to be sure that your child has not been sexually abused. So I would say that be friends with your child. That's the first thing. A lot of times, parents are not available. I say it everywhere that I go. Parenting is synonymous with availability. If you're not available, you have no business being a parent. And I'm sorry, I don't care what kind of job that you do. Now, priority should be on your child, even if you cannot be physically present. You know, IT has made it very, very convenient for us that wherever you are, you can make sure that you Skype with your child. Now, if you have to be away, let them know. Be friends with your children. If you're not friends with them, when they run into trouble, they won't come and somebody that doesn't share joy with you, how will he share pain, or how will she share pain with you? So it's important for you also to be friends. I keep saying it that have your moments with your child. At least no phones. It might be 15 minutes every day that you can spare, but please let there be an alone time, just you and your child. And God bless you if you have more than 3. You know, it doesn't have to be every day. You could spread it into like 3 times in a week, one for each child, depending on what works for you. But the most important thing is that you are friends with your child, that you spend alone time with your child. That's the first thing. The second thing is educate yourself. A lot of us are not informed. What you don't have, you cannot give. For instance, we're talking about body safety, age-appropriate education. You need to find out, how can I talk to my child about sex, about abuse without exposing too much, without putting fear. Also, without putting fear in our hearts. You need to research, you need to read, you need to ask questions. Find out, educate yourself on what you need to know to protect your child. Parenting tips are everywhere that you can lay your hands on. And then again, I say teach body safety education is the third most important. You need to educate your child. Teach them what their body parts are. Teach them nobody is allowed to touch their private part because they're important people. I tell my children wherever I go, just as the president cannot walk into a room and you just go and have access to him and then begin to touch his shoulder, not even his private part, his shoulder, let alone his private part. Why? Because he's a very important person. So let's teach our children that they are very important, and because they are important, just people should not have access, do not have that right, do not have that right to them. So there are about 4 of the rules that I call body safety rules. The first, let's teach our children no one is allowed to look at their private part. We always leave this other part. So I say no one is allowed to look at their private part or make them look at someone else's private part. A lot of times we leave that part out. The second rule is what I call the no touch rule. The first is the no see rule. The second is the no touch rule. No touch rule just says that no one is allowed to touch their private part, or make them, let's always remember that part, make them touch someone else's private part. Now the third safety rule that I teach is the no secret, or before that is the alone rule. Alone rule, let's teach our children not to stay alone with people other than us for a long period of time. When people, because we've seen cases of an uncle or an auntie asked me to buy something, and then in the process of taking it to the room, to the room, then the child gets abused or the child gets raped. So let's teach our children, yes, to be respectful, but to avoid staying alone with people other than their parents as much as they can. Now again, the last one is the no secret rule. No secret rule. Let's teach our children not to keep secret. I say it every time that I go. Your sign to tell is when you hear don't tell. So when anyone wants to teach you anything, wants to show you anything, wants to tell you anything, and says, promise me you will not tell, that is your sign to tell. It's important that we teach our children that. Again, it's important that we teach our children to say no. I said it earlier, there is no place where saying no is synonymous with disrespect. I think it's the how of the no that might be termed as disrespectful, particularly with children. Let us teach our children. It is okay for them to be able to say no. If somebody wants to give a hug and your child does not want a hug, it's not compulsory. It's not like that's the only form of greeting that is available. A good morning sir, a good morning ma does not have to be with a hug. So if your child is not comfortable with that, let's encourage our children to be able to talk. Let's help them build the confidence that they need to actually be able to say no. So it's okay for your child to be able to say no. So I say run safety check. What are safety checks? All of the things that I have just mentioned.